America, I have to tell you, we've talked about a lot of spooky things on this program, and I'm hoping that a lot of these things are wrong, but I think we need to think out of the box. We're in an age of the unthinkable. Now, I've told you on this program before about Cloward and Piven. It is a 1960s strategy that actually taught people the best way to stop the Republic, the best way to stop America, the best way to subvert the Constitution and replace it with communism, Marxism, socialism, whatever, is to financially collapse it. Not to fight in the streets, but financially fight. Well, just a year ago, I will tell you that this stuff sounded absolutely crazy. It still sounds... there are times at night I lay in bed and I'm like, this cannot be true. How can these people... This can't be true. Well, it is. These people are now the ruling class. But tonight, I not only want to show you how bad the debt is, but I also want to show it to you because I think if you're armed with information, if a crisis comes, you're not going to accept their answer because you'll understand what the problem is. You won't accept the solution that I think is coming. And what is coming is a system that doesn't really look a lot like America as you know it, because this system is unsustainable for the way the people in Washington have built it. It is a system that is going to financially collapse at some points. Here's what I think they're doing. Look at the debt clock. Once again, they're only saying almost $12 trillion at the top, but the whole number is about $343,000 per citizen. There's no way to pay that off. So we need more money. There's not enough gold. Well, you can't go back to the gold standard for very long. They can back it with real estate. Land. That's what they did in Germany. And there's certainly enough land and resources in America that we could back our currency with. I mean, the government, though, would have to own all of the land. Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. Between Fannie and Freddie, the government already owns half of all of the U.S. mortgages, and they're about to buy more. And if you couple that with the federal land and the grab for parks that they're doing now, and, oh, did you hear the polar bears are too crowded and endangered, so they just gave, what was it, 200 square miles there? That's great. Oh, and all the oil that we're currently not drilling for, and the coal that we're not mining. Gosh, if you took all of that, I bet you could base a new currency off of that. Oh, and I bet China could come and help, because you probably wouldn't be happy with a system like that, taking all of the land, because that's one of our real rights that we had in our Constitution. I mean, what happens? Who would the new regime responsible for this new system of currency, who would they have on their side? Who would the federal government, after they've destroyed our future and your children's future, who would they have on your side? They say, let the government fix it. Let the world fix it. There's a better idea. Let the world fix it. They're already saying these things now. And when you watch Friday's show on global warming, you will see how they are laying the groundwork for this. Don't fool yourself. Read American history. Read any history. Both the American Revolution and the Civil War, we needed allies. We needed people who would fight and supply money. Our government is making those allies. Russia, China, Venezuela. But don't you think China would be willing to come over here and protect this government, help this government out from its own radical people who just won't sit down and recognize the new reality? Under these circumstances, for a piece of our oil, coal, mineral reserves, land, to be a part of one big happy global family, you bet they will. So it boils down to this. What if the dollar collapses in the next 3, 5, 8 years? Is there anybody thinking of a plan? Because I'd like to hear another plan. This is the only one I can come up with. Historically speaking, it's the only one I can find, too. Is there anybody making a plan? And does it matter?
Chinese and the Russian armed forces will conduct joint anti-terror military exercises. The exercise, codenamed Peace Mission 2009, will start on July the 23rd, as James Kim reports.
Defense officials say the exercise will be carried out in Russia's Far East and the Shenyang Military Area Command in northeast China. China's Defense Ministry spokesman says the chiefs of general staff of the two sides will hold strategic talks in Russia's Kharkovsk on the eve of the exercises. The 4-day drills will begin at a training base on the Chinese side, where theater-level command headquarters of both sides will be established. 1,300 personnel from both armies and air forces will participate in the exercise. Russian forces will also send an airborne assault unit. Defense authorities of the two countries say the exercise is not targeted at any particular third party, but it will showcase the abilities and resolution of both sides to jointly cope with various kinds of security threats and crack down on terrorists, separatists, and extremists. China and Russia are marking 60 years of diplomatic ties. The exercise is designed to deepen military cooperation and strengthen their strategic partnership. James Kim, CCTV.
Is it far-fetched to imagine that these UN peacekeeping forces would be used against American citizens? The 502nd, another unit from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, is shown here arriving as peacekeepers in Somalia wearing their UN blue berets and UN insignia. Shortly thereafter, this same unit, the 502nd, was in Arkansas practicing house-to-house searches and seizures in a joint UN training mission called Agile Provider in the spring of 1994. Agile Provider involved 44,000 UN troops, including troops from France and the Netherlands, training in the states of Georgia, North and South Carolina, Arkansas, and Tennessee. Yes, UN troops have been trained in this country in the past, but not in brigade strengths and not in domestic support house-to-house searches and seizures. Many of our congressmen deny that UN troops are being trained in this country at all. But as you can see in these clips from Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, Germans were training here last spring.
Es ist die Baracke 1660, die da. Vom zweiten Zug, der Hitzschall,
UN training has become so widespread that many of the newspapers around the country have had at least one such story. Several thousand U.S. troops are training in the U.S. this summer and fall, and if we look around us, we can see plenty of the signs and symptoms of a global takeover under the auspices of the United Nations taking place right here in our country. These trucks are Soviet trucks imported from eastern Germany, parked at a private facility in the DeSoto National Forest in Sautier, Mississippi, just outside Gulfport off Highway 59. A sign on the facility says Airmar. Airmar is privately owned, but the signs on fences around the facility say this is a U.S. Customs facility. Several acres of federal forest land was bulldozed to create this customs facility solely for Airmar. No one knows for sure what this facility really is, but one thing is certain, it's not what we're being told it is. And there are 750 Soviet chemical trucks sitting in Mississippi whose sole use is to spray chemicals and nerve gas in chemical warfare operations. What are they doing in Mississippi? What are they doing on U.S. soil? And why are they under the protection of the U.S. government if they are privately owned? Senator Sam Nunn from Georgia was quoted as saying he was certain the American public would welcome the Soviet troops as peacekeeping forces in the United States. Not only have these Soviet trucks been found in Mississippi, people recently photographed these two clearly marked Soviet vehicles in Texas. This train full of American-made tanks was one of 7 such trains that passed through Indianapolis en route to Fort Lewis, Washington in June. We were told that this was the 3rd Armored Division returning from Europe. Yet Fort Lewis has such a severe housing shortage that many military families are actually living in tents. Yet this whole division is being sent there. 3 other such trains passed through Indianapolis in early August, one heading to Fort Riley, Kansas, another to Alabama, and the 3rd to Fort Lewis, Washington. Are these tanks part of Operation Garden Plot, to be used to round us up for the slave labor camps, along with the black helicopters and federal law enforcement that look like active-duty military stationed in our roadways as they were in Waco? Welcome to the New World Order. Expect no mercy.